The Islanders made their roster decisions. I would say some surprises, some things we knew were coming, but definitely some surprises. So I'll read off the full thing, so we have the full context at the beginning. Then we'll break it down kind of individually from there. Some stories bigger than others, but here are your Islanders waives: Pierre Engvall, Hudson Fasching, Liam Foudy, Karlstrom, Bolduc, Hutton, Hoiberg, and Skarek, which means Julien Gauthier, Oliver Wahlstrom, and Dennis Chalowski were the ones on the bubble who end up making the roster here, Mitch. Where do you want to start with this? I feel like Engvall's the big one. We've talked about it for a while. Would they or won't they? And they made the decision. They waived him.
Yeah. We talked about it, obviously, and everyone else, in the world that is an Islander fan has also talked about it, at least just to themselves. Like, would they actually waive Pierre Engvall? Obviously, you don't clear the full cap hit. We all know that it only creates $1.125 million of cap space. But the big problem, maybe not problem, but the big negative factor towards sending him to waivers was like, with Lou Lamoriello, 2 years into it, going to send a guy, not even 1 year after, signing a guy to a 7-year contract, send him on waivers.
Yeah, with essentially,
and he said yes.
Right, with essentially 6 years left, right? Because this year it's going into year 2 of a 7-year deal, which is why I was not that I'm going to repeat my point, but not that I was against the idea of the Islanders waiving him. It was like pretty much what I said the last few episodes is I don't know if they would bite that bullet and admit the mistake, so to speak, right? Because that's tough. Year 2 of a 7-year deal, and you're like, all right, we're going to waive this guy. I think all things considered, I do think it is the right decision, though. One, it clears up the cap space that's necessary. But number 2, he didn't look good. Unfortunately, like last year, he didn't look like he had a place. And this year, going into it, he was, fighting for a roster spot and didn't really do anything to stand out. But something that I found interesting, and I wanted to get your take on it, essentially, Lou Lamoriello spoke today, and paraphrasing, but he said that Maxim Tiplikov beat him out for a top 6 role, and then they didn't see Pierre Engvall in a bottom 6 role, which I think the irony is that most Islanders fans look at Pierre Engvall and go, that's a third liner. But in the Islanders' mind, it was like, all right, it's going to be Maxim Tiplikov or Pierre Engvall for the second line. And clearly, like, I don't think, while we were not down, but we were kind of just be like, let's be patient with Maxim Tiplikov. He was clearly the better player, like not even remotely close.
No, you're right. In the competition of Maxim Tiplikov and Pierre Engvall, Maxim Tiplikov won it hands down. It wasn't even close. And what we preached was don't jump to a conclusion now. And if people are going like he's definitely second liner today, okay, fine, I'll give you that. I don't necessarily think he should be an everyday second liner, but he's going to start on the Islanders' second line because, as we mentioned, there's no one better than him on the team to play on that second line. There just isn't. We saw Pierre Engvall play on that second line the other day, and that's only because Kyle Palmieri wasn't healthy enough. Right, Kyle Palmieri had to take like a personal day or something, a recovery day or whatnot, and then didn't play in the final game against the Rangers, the final preseason game. So to me, like it's clear that Pierre Engvall was not up to snuff. Not only was Pierre Engvall beat out, because I see him, like you're saying, as a third liner, a middle sixer. He beat out by Simon Holmstrom too, man. Can't deny that. Simon Holmstrom also beat him out, and so like that's pretty embarrassing for him.
Yeah, handedly. Like I don't think it's really remotely close. And then when you factor into it as well, like the cap hit of both Maxim Tiplikov and Simon Holmstrom, like clearly more advantageous to have those style of players making less than the $3 million that Pierre Engvall was making. But just again, strange. We not that we were against the idea of re-signing Pierre Engvall after when he came to the Islanders and performed well, but we thought, this 7 years is a little bit weird. The price on it wasn't crazy. The fact that it was $3 million, I think we kind of spin zoned ourselves into being like, it's okay, it's not horrible.
Yeah,
but I like, and I'm gonna repeat myself again, but I like that both Lou and I think we have to give credit to Patrick Waugh as well. We're like, look, listen, like he's just not one of our 12 best forwards right now. It's not worth it to keep him up here.
Yeah, it does seem wild that he plays for 18 games with the Islanders, puts up 9 points, which is like a 40-point pace, 41-point pace, which is fine. And then like, let's throw 7 years at this guy on an 18-game sample. Youch. That was already a bad decision. And you know, you're right. We spinned ourselves like, hey, look, if he plays at a 30-point pace, 30 to 40 points, that's fine. We'll take it, man. Like $3 million. Yeah, okay, fine. But then he puts up 28 points in 74 games last year and looks even worse this year. Ouch. And that's going to be on the books for 6 years, unless, God willing, someone claims him.
That was my next question. Do you think someone actually claims Pierre Engvall here, or is he going to be in Bridgeport?
He's going to have to be in Bridgeport. Does he go? I would imagine he does.
Yeah, I think so. No, I'm coping, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Columbus.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the only shot, right?
You're looking at teams who have less than 10 or more than $10 million on the cap. San Jose, Calgary, Columbus, Anaheim. End of list. That's it. Those are the only options because no one else, like Buffalo, have $7.9 million. They're not going to throw. You know what? They might. Buffalo might too. Who knows? Buffalo's done some weird things this offseason, man. They're trading Matty Savoie for a third line center. That's rough.
It definitely, and they're not that. I mean, it's still very, very early in the season. They're really the only ones who have gotten started here, but they haven't looked good in the 2 games that they played against New Jersey.
No, they really did not, and I don't know if Pierre Engvall is going to fix that for them. But
2 goals in 2 games. It lost 4-1 and 3-1.
Yeah. I like Chicago is next at $5.9 million. Utah has $8.3 million. This is just kind of cap space.
Yeah.
I just don't see anyone doing it. Anyone. Like Columbus has 26 players on their roster right now. They have way too many. They're going to have to get rid of some. So maybe. And keep in mind, I'm using cap wages right now, and that is not entirely accurate because I'm pretty sure they still have Rustin Shikov for us. They do.
They do. Yeah. They got to get this stuff going, man. RIP, I feel like we're going to say this every episode. RIP cap friendly. There's not a good alternative right now.
So let me just go to Puckpedia, current cap space. So yeah, you have, oh my God, it goes from Calgary Flames at 19.5, Columbus 20.2, Anaheim 20.6, and then after that you have San Jose at $9.4 million worth of cap space. They don't even have $10 million worth of cap space. Close, but
not exactly.
If you have 10 plus million worth of cap space, you can take a Pierre Engvall and you still have $6 million left.
No, exactly. But again, I don't know if a team outside of Columbus, who obviously just suffered a horrible tragedy and needed forward help, like I don't know. I can't really find another spot where he would go. My guess is he goes down to Bridgeport. I don't know if we've seen the last of Pierre Engvall with the Islanders, though.
Perhaps not. Like you might be able to call him up. Maybe he does really well in Bridgeport and just destroys things. But you're right. I don't imagine anyone picks him up just because of the 6 years, really. Like even Columbus, they're going, well, we don't want to get married to this for 6 years. That's a long time. We need it now. We might not need an extra dead weight $3 million in 4 years, even 3 years, maybe ideally. So I don't see anyone picking that contract up. But you're right. Like he might come the trade deadline. Just let him play in Bridgeport. Let him dominate. Bridgeport might actually be good this year with all these extra players coming around, assuming they perform, of course. And so, yeah, maybe he does well in Bridgeport and come the trade deadline when there's no cap. You bring him up. You don't have to make a trade deadline acquisition.
I can't believe you just said that, because now I don't want to
very unserious.
I was going to say, I don't want 6 months from now being like, well, they didn't make any move. They standed pat, but Pierre Engvall is waiting in the wings any minute now. And Matt Martin could be signed off his PTO any second too.
If you like that, make sure to subscribe to Up the Turnpike on Patreon for more exclusive New York Islanders content.